Hi, this is an introduction to why you might want to learn programming with a view of getting a job as a software developer. And I've also added a quick tutorial that I'd invite you to watch and maybe try on your own computer if you'd like to. So the aim of this video is to show you in broad strokes what the life of a programmer entails and help you to come to a decision about whether you'd like to pursue this path, or at least just find a little bit more information about the world of programming. So just a bit of backstory to this video. I've been working remotely for a year now with my buddy who runs a software company in Japan, and he's always on the lookout to recruit more developers. One thing I've noticed with new starts is it takes them a bit of time to get up to speed with the specific requirements of the company. So the company has many different small and medium-sized projects with different environments. For example, we've got Unity projects for iOS and Android. There's some for VR. There's native projects for iOS and Android, so that includes Swift and Kotlin. And there's also websites as well using different technologies, such as Vue JS. Each one has its own build and deployment steps, and sometimes it requires people to shift over between projects at a moment's notice and be depended on to get up to speed nice and quickly. What I found is we occasionally get people who have experience with one particular field, like websites or C# for example, but when it comes to being able to jump in just to do a new project that they're not so familiar with, so for example, a new programming language or just getting set up on their own machine, then they tend to need quite a lot of support to get there. There are sometimes solutions right there in the documentation, or they could really get set up quite easily just by searching on Google. So I'm currently thinking about making a test project which forms part of an interview process, more so of an introduction or a guide about how the company operates, and also introduces how the project management style is and how to work together with other developers. The idea is, as an interviewee, you can see upfront how the internal processes at the company goes, and then you can get a fair idea and you get a chance to line up the sorts of skills which are really required in order to be able to participate in a meaningful way in more of a sandbox environment. Another discussion emerged about the potential of helping people who were interested but rather lacked experience, about helping them to become useful developers, or at least providing them a basic framework in which they could learn the skills themselves. The hope would be that they could then learn the core skill requirements like lateral thinking, being self-driven, and being able to find the answers themselves. Basically, all of the answers are on Google and YouTube, and it's up to you to find and implement them. At the beginning of learning programming, I know for sure there's a whole new, like a wall of all these new things that you need to learn, and there are tutorials online that you can find. And sure, you can look at them and follow the steps. But when it comes to doing your own thing or actually working in a real environment, then you realize that the things the tutorial says just don't seem to make sense in your particular issue, and you're just stuck, and it's pretty difficult. But I do promise that if you stick at it and just keep going through all the little steps in order to get there, then it does become easier, and heaven forbid it actually becomes a fun hobby to do. You could probably find yourself, there's a whole load of YouTube videos explaining the advantages and disadvantages of becoming a programmer, and they'd probably explain it a lot better than I would, so I'd probably advise going onto those videos and searching and seeing what other people have to say about it. I've got one link which I'll put in the description. Is that how they do it? Up there or up there? One of them. I don't know. Maybe it's down there. I don't know. But for me, I'd say the best thing about programming is the problem solving. There's a sense of creativity that allows you to solve the problems you face and actually find it more of a hobby. So I would do it if I was paid or not. So there's a huge demand for good programmers. The salaries are pretty good. And to put it in perspective, I've paid off my flat. My last job was in 2018, and I'm aiming to do the nomadic travel and work thing when the lockdown's over. So I'll go into a programming exercise now, and I'd invite you to join along and maybe even try it out on your own computer as well. So it's using Vue JS, and it doesn't matter if you know JavaScript or programming, or even if you know if you want to be a programmer or not yet. So the purpose really is just to see the steps involved and see how you like it. Okay, so the first thing to do is to go to the website that's mentioned in the description. So I'll bring up Chrome and then go there. I've copied it already. Go there. Okay, so the project name is Hello World Vue. So Hello World is like the first app that, or first program that you'd ever write. It's to show that your system is set up so that you can actually start writing, building, and running code, just to show that your setup is built up. And this website is gitlab.com. Which is a source code hosting website using the Git source control system. So what I can do here is, that may not make a lot of sense at the moment, but what I'll do is I'll scroll down and you can see some stuff here. And here there's readme.md. So all projects, I'd like to hope, have a readme file, and that's just the starting point. That's where you can start looking to see what you can do with the project. And ideally there's some simple setup instructions in order for you to get set up on your own computer and then be able to run it. So the purpose of this tutorial isn't really to be learning the specific programming system. So this is actually a Vue project, which is here. Yep, an introduction to programming and source control with Vue JS website project. So like I said, the purpose of this tutorial isn't to learn Vue.js, but rather just to get a feel for being able to start on a new project in which you don't really have much experience, in order to just get, hello world, just get something running on your own computer, and then you can start making small changes. So here we've got a bunch of files, but we'll leave that for now. We'll go down to the readme MD. So yes, here we are. This is a test project as a guide for new developers. Vue.js is a framework for the development of interactive websites. For now, it's not important if you're familiar with Vue. The purpose of this project is to get set up with a project that already exists, run and test locally, and make a simple code change, and then upload for others to see. Okay, well, that's not going to happen during this tutorial, I know that for sure. But yeah, we'll do the other things. So yeah, if it's still not completely clear, I've added a few YouTube recommendations that might be a bit more helpful. So the first one is why you should become a self-taught programmer in 2020. I think I said that earlier when I was speaking before. Next one is what is a Git repository, and that would explain a bit more about Git and how to interact with it. And then the final one is Vue JS Crash Course. Now, this video is like an hour long or so, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend it if you're not really wanting to learn Vue.js, but if you want to get a bit more involved about the actual source code for this project, then this video would be a really good start. This project itself was built using some of the steps in that video, and that's actually how I first learned Vue.js maybe a year ago or so. Okay, so we've got project setup, some text, compiles and hot reloads for development. Yeah, so it would be required to get the software apps that are listed as required in this list, at least for the scope of this tutorial. For example, for Git, you do already have it if you're running on Mac or Linux, but for Windows, I'm not so sure, but easy enough. If you need to download it, then you just Google it. So Git, if I go here and new tab, type in Git. Nope, not GitLab, just Git. To that. Then comes up Git SCM, first link, or downloads, go to that one. There we are, and then you can choose Mac, Windows, so do that. Yep, there we are. Well, I'm running a Mac, so it's not going to be appropriate for that one, but that's how you would install Git. And just to check and see if you do have Git already, what you can do is you can go to your terminal window. So the way you do that, I've got a shortcut to it, but you can go to Launchpad and then just type in TERM, and then there's terminal there. For Windows, it would be the command prompt, so I think that would be Windows key R and then type in CMD, and you can get a pretty similar setup here. And this lists your, this is a command line interface. So you can imagine that when you're interacting with the computer, you're using like windows and icons and stuff, and that's kind of the graphics environment. Whereas using this is the CLI, the command line interface. So this is more a text-based way of interacting with the computer. So there's still some commands that require getting down to text level to do it. It's just a necessity, I'm afraid. But yeah, so I've got my command prompt here. If I type in git, press enter, then it comes up with a bunch of stuff, and it talks about how to use Git. If I didn't have Git and I typed Git in, then it would probably say something like Git not found, or what is Git, or don't understand, and then you'd know you'd need to go and get a new version. Source tree is required. This is a graphical interface for Git, so it's not absolutely required, but I would say for the scope of this video that it is required, because it does provide a bit more of a graphical outlay for how Git works. And without it, you can still just use the command line to do it, but it's certainly not for beginners. Next one is Sublime. That's a text editor app, and I'm going to use Sublime for this one because it's relatively straightforward. I mean, you could just use any text editor app, really, like even just Notepads would be fine. But what I like about Sublime is that you can open folders as projects. So a project contains all the files within a folder, and it's really easy to access. And then you can do things like find in files, which I find very convenient. Of course, my day-to-day stuff is using VS Code, so Visual Studio by Microsoft. I'm not going to use it for this tutorial because there's a whole bunch of settings and plugins and all that kind of fun stuff that you probably don't need to get bogged down with for the scope of this tutorial. Next one, browser, Chrome. I'm going to use Chrome. I would recommend having Chrome. The reason is because at the company that I work at, everyone has the same browser. And when it comes to things like debugging web pages, then it's really a good idea to have a consistent experience across all of the browsers. Because if you're trying to explain to someone what a particular issue is, then if you're saying, look on the right-hand pane to find the debug menu, and they've got Safari open, for example, now Safari debug window opens at the bottom. So the final two ones are Node and NPM. So I will let you search online what these are for, but they are absolutely required for running Vue JS projects. You can test to see if you have Node or NPM already on your computer. If you have a Mac, then it's going to be definitely installed. So Node-V, there we are, it comes up with the version. If you didn't have it, it'll come up with an error. And then npm-v, same again. So we've got to the bottom of the file now, and we've got some tasks to complete. So firstly, install the required apps above. So I'll let you do that if you need to. And next is clone the project to your local. Cloning the project means copying the Git repository to your own computer so you can get set up and running. And then finally, after you've cloned the project, look at firsttask.md for the task. So if I go back up here, there is a file here called firsttask.md. So we'll look at that later on, but in the meantime, what we want to do is get the code project onto our own computer. So just now, this code project is hosted on the website GitLab. GitHub, is the most popular one, but we're using GitLab at the company because it's got some special server features which GitHub didn't have a couple of years ago. So we're using that for just now. So clone, you'll see a blue button there saying clone. So let's do that. And then it says clone with SSH. And we've got a piece of text there. So what we'll do is we'll copy it. And then we can go to the terminal and we will clone the project into the local machine. So firstly, I think I want to go to the documents folder. There we are. and I'll make a new folder and call it Hello World. And then I want to cd into the folder. So I want to have this terminal window pointing to this folder. And the way to do that is cd space. So cd means change directory. And then we've got this folder here. What we can do is we can just drag it over here. And it populates the folder, press enter, and we're in there now. So I can do pwd for passive working directory, so it shows me that I'm in here. And then what I'm going to do is call a git command called git clone. So git clone, and then paste in the text that I copied earlier. There it is, I press enter, and it will clone into there. So you can see in the Explorer window, sorry, the Finder, so you can see in the Finder window that a new folder has appeared. It's called Hello World Vue, and inside there, there's a bunch of folders and files in there as well. And if you look back at the Git repo, you can see these files. So we've got .gitignore, first task, readme, Babel, package, and if I then go back to the folder, you can see Babel, gitignore, package. So these are the same files. So what's happened is it's copied the files, or it's cloned the files from the online repository to your local one. It's also made a folder called .git, and this contains the settings for your Git repo, which is locally on your own machine. Okay, so if you don't see this .git and .gitignore files and folders on your machine, it's because you've most likely got hidden files not showing. And an easy way to do that on Mac is to do Command-Shift-, and it toggles showing or hiding them. So I've got my machine set up so that it always shows hidden folders and files. The reason why they're hidden is because they have the file name begins with a dot. Any file on Mac that begins with a dot is hidden, and you can show and hide them like that. And then, yep, okay. Okay, so we've cloned the repository to the local machine. What I would like to do is open it with source tree so you can get a better idea of what's in here. So I will open, I've already downloaded source tree. If you need to get source tree, just Google source tree and then press enter. And there it is there. And then you can download it there if you want to. So there'll be one for Windows. Yes, there's one for Windows. I noticed there's not one for Linux. There is alternatives like Fork, I believe, Git Kraken possibly. So there are alternatives, and I'd highly advise using a graphics environment for Git. But I'll close that for now. Okay, so I will open source tree. Do that, source. Here we are. So I go to File, Open, then go to Hello World, then Hello World View, and you can see those files in there. And now this one hides files by default. So if I do Command-Shift-, then you can see there's the Git folder there. So this is you can only open folders in source tree that have a .git folder inside them. So I'm not going into the Git folder, I'm just saying at the level where the Git folder is and then opening that. Okay, so we've got Git now, and it's showing a whole lot of stuff here, which likely doesn't make sense. But the main part here is we've got it's called the commit history. So every time the way that Git works is it records changes that you make to files, and then it records those changes into commits. So each one of these circles here is a commit, and you'll see these lines here, which there's no need to worry about them for the moment. But the important thing is that the circle at the very top has a white circle inside it, and it's at the latest. That means it's the latest timestamp. It's the latest version of the code that you've got. Now I'm going to look at the folder here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this folder using Sublime. So again, I've already downloaded Sublime, but you can get that just by going to Sublime Text, go there. Yep, and it's got a link so you can download the app. Okay, so I will close that for now, and I'll close that one. Now I'll open my local copy of Sublime. So go to Launchpad, type in the first few letters, SUB, Sublime, and open that. Don't need a new version just yet. Okay, so here, this is a text editor. I can type in text, great. But what I can do now is I can open the folder using Sublime. So I'll move that here, and I've got my Hello World Vue folder here. I can just drag that across into Sublime, and hopefully, there we are. Yeah, so it's opened that folder into Sublime. And when I do that, I can then just single click onto each of the files, and then I get to view what the file contents is here. So you could probably use this as an IDE if you really wanted to. So an IDE is Integrated Development Environment, but more realistically, VS Code is a bit more advanced for doing that kind of stuff. So you get things with, you get features such as debuggers or code highlighting, which well, actually Sublime does it here as well, a little bit. So it's a bit more than I expected, right? But no, the reason I'm using Sublime just now is just because it's nice and simple. It doesn't do any crazy stuff like automatic formatting when you save. So that's something for down the road. But I would fully expect that if you were to be doing programming, then I'd be fully expecting that if you were to be doing programming in the future, then VS Code is one of the first stops you would make. So yes. Yep, okay, doke. So we've got the program here. We'll go back to README. Now, in order to get set up, the README file, and now after you've cloned the project, look at firsttask.md for the task. So I can see here in my program, my folder, I've got a file called firsttask.md, so I'll click on that, and it opens up. Okay, so these are the tasks to do. Follow the project setup and compiles, geez, I didn't write that well, and hot reloads for development to get the Hello World page on your browser at http localhost 8080. Okay, so follow the project setup and compiles and hot reloads for development. If I go back to readme.md, I can see project setup and compiles and hot reloads for development. So these are steps required by Vue JS in order to set up your local environment so that you can begin showing the Vue project. So it doesn't make it obvious here, but you've got these backticks here, these little characters. Typically they mean that it's the source code in between those backticks. But what this means is run this command on the command line or on terminal. So I'm going to do that just now. So I will go to terminal, and I will double check that I'm inside the right folder again. So pwd, and that's, yep, the document hello world. So go in there. So if I ls list folder, now I'm actually not in the right folder because if I go back to the folder, I can see here, right? So I've got my documents, I've got hello world, inside there's hello world Vue, and then inside that I've got the project, so I need to go into that folder. So I'll go in there. So cd is change directory, and type in hello, and then press tab to autocomplete. Okay, then I'll do pwd to list the folder name. So documents, hello world Vue, and then if I do ls, so it's list, I can then see the file names there, and then that relates to the files there. So that is the correct folder. So go there, press, now what did it say? I'll go back here. Project setup, npm install. So I shall be very lazy and copy this. And then I will go back to terminal and paste that in. Yep, npm install, and then press enter. Now, stuff is happening. What's actually happening here is it's installing the libraries which JavaScript and Vue requires in order for the system to work. Yeah, okay, that's done. And I'll go back to the documentation and see what it says. So npm, next one is npm Run Serve. So I'll copy that. Copy, go back to the terminal and paste that in and press enter. The npm Run Serve has been run, and now what's happening is it's showing here app running at local and network. So what's happening here is it's hosting the web server for this project, and you can access it using your local browser. You can even access it using like a mobile phone that's connected to the same Wi-Fi network if you wanted to, but for your own computer you can use localhost. So I'll copy that address there. So right click, copy, and then I'll go to Chrome, new tab, and paste in. Here we are. Okay, so we've got the web page here. So this web page is being hosted on your local machine. So for example, if I quit out of this, so to quit an application that's running on within terminal, you do Control-C, and it's quit out. So I can go back to this, and it's there. But if I press refresh, then it doesn't work. So I can restart the server by running the last command. I just press up there, npm Run Serve, do that. And it's restarted. I can go back here and press refresh, and it's there. Okay, so we've now downloaded, we've cloned the project into our local machine and then run it. So we've now got the Vue app running here. We'll go back to the instructions, so go back to Sublime and see what it says within the first task. So notice that I can switch between the files really easy because I've got this folder view here. So it doesn't really matter what's here. It allows me to navigate through the project really quickly and easily. Okay, so yep, we've done that. We've gone to localhost. First one is create a new branch in Git named hello. Okay, how to do that? So we'll go to source tree. So remember, we've got this here. So you'll see the white dot has actually moved into its own space, and we've got an extra line called uncommitted changes. Now they weren't there before. It started there, but now it's a new thing. So we can click on that, and a bunch of stuff has changed. So what's happening here is when I click on one of these entries here, these represent different commits through the history of the repo, and it shows you which files have changed as part of that commit, and in there it shows you exactly what had changed in each file. So if I go here, we've got 2 files have changed because of the yellow icon, and then 1 file has been added. And then you can see what's happened here. You can see that the green means lines have been added, and the red means lines have been taken away. So we'll go to here, we've got uncommitted changes, and then we've got package.lock.json. Now it's not showing that there because I know the file is a bit too big, but we don't need to worry about that for just now. The request was to create a new branch. So it's probably not necessary for this project because we're actually not going to be committing, well, we're not going to be uploading anywhere, but the way you create a new branch in this is to go to the branch icon and click it. And then we've got current branch, we're on a branch called master, and we want to make a new branch. And we can call that anything we like, but I think it was called hello. Let me go back to here. Yes, create a new branch and get named hello. So I can go to source tree again, new branch, type in hello. And that's it done. Okay, so we've created the hello branch, and you can see there there's a small blue thing that says hello. And here on branches, we've got master and hello. And they're actually both pointing to the same commit at the moment, but we can have them point at different commits later on. There's also remotes here with head and master here, but that's not something that we need to worry about for just now. They relate to the connection to the GitLab repository online, but we're not going to be pushing anything up to GitLab for now, so we don't need to worry about it at this point. Okay, let's go back here to first task. Okay, so change hello world text to hello your name, i.e. hello Fred. Okay, so what we need to do now is actually make changes to the source code in order to implement this change. So if we go back to the web page, we've got welcome to your Vue JS app, hello world. So that's the text there, but the requirement for this task is to change that text to something else. Now, this is where it would be necessary to know Vue.js in order to implement that change. But to illustrate what would happen if you've started a new project and you have a task like this and you don't really know where to begin, what I would suggest is just searching for it. So what we want to do is search for hello world in the code base. So I will copy that text, and then I can right click on a folder and find in folder, then type in hello world. I think I did that already, but I'll paste that again. Do that, find, yep, and it's come up with a whole bunch of different hits. So we can look at these and try and make some sense of them. The one here that we need is actually down here, but you can see the yellow text there. It shows you what file it's in. So node modules is actually click that off. Yep. So node modules is actually a folder which is a behind the scenes thing. So this is used by the node system. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ignore hits that came from node modules folders and instead look at ones which are not in node modules. So the first one is firsttask.md. And of course it found that because that's from the description about what to do. So if I keep on going down, node modules, and at the bottom we've got one which is not node modules. And we can go there, we've got hello world.view, and inside there we've got local message hello world. So I can jump to that by double clicking. There we are. Yep, and this is the code file. And I can then go to hello world there, that's where the text is. And I will change it to hello Fred. Yep, and then save that. That's it. Then I'll go back to Chrome and see what happened. And then it's updated. And you can see that. So I can go back to Sublime Text and then change that to anything else. Hello Martin, because that's my name. File, save. Do that, and then go back to Chrome. And that's changed again. Okay, so let's go back to the text. So that was firsttask.md. So change hello world to hello your name. So I've done that. Check that's reflected in the browser view by refreshing the browser page. Yep, done that. And then finally, create a commit with this code change. Okay, so create a commit with that code change is something for Git. So for that, we need to go to source tree. Let me go there. We can go to uncommitted changes. So these are changes which have happened but not yet tracked by Git or by the source control system. So down here we've got package lock.json, and then we've got src/components/hello world.view. So yeah, we'll look here. We've got the previous line has been removed, so hello world has been removed, and a new line, hello Martin, has been added. And this is what we want to add into the code repository. Okay, we're ready to commit this file, hello world.view, and you can see the changes there. So the way to commit it is we first staged it. So that is, we can put the file, select the file in unstaged files, and then the file is staged. And then afterwards, we can then go to file status, and you can see stage files, it's there. And we can then create a commit message and then press commit. So what we'll do is we'll write in a commit message. So a commit message is a description of what the commit contains. So this is useful for when you're viewing the history of a project. So you can see initial commit, readme, code example, simplified, merge, fix readme. So we'd want to put in a comment which relates to the change that we've made. So we changed the hello world text to hello Martin. Okay, and then click on commit. And now that file's disappeared. So if I go back to branches here, click on hello, you can see now what's happened is hello has jumped ahead of the other branches, and it's got the text that we typed in. So we've committed the change, and we can see the text. You can see the commit contents, and that is the change that we made earlier. So that's it. We'll go back to Sublime. Create a commit with this code change. That looks like we've done it. This is past Martin. I haven't yet recorded the tutorial yet, but I hope it went well. I'm just about to go record the tutorial now. But let me know how you get on. Like, comment, subscribe, buy me coffee, I don't know, like marry me, whatever they do 10 press ups. Yeah, and here's a little behind the scenes afterwards. So I've got my rig here. So I've got my computer. I've actually done a little script for it. So I'll do that. Yeah, you got the script there. So if you saw that my eyes were all over the place, it's because I was actually looking like beneath the the camera. So I got this little my rig here, and then the phone would sit here like that, and then you could see me. Yeah. All right.